Now, a damning new poll has revealed that over half of Scots don't want another independence referendum. The bombshell survey by the Scotsman asked whether a vote should take place next October, with 53% of people saying no, 40% replying yes, and the remainder undecided. On Tuesday, of course, scheming Sturgeon announced she will pander to her craven SNP base and push ahead with a second divisive and costly ballot, even if Westminster refuses to allow it.
It does transpire that there is no lawful way for this Parliament to give the people of Scotland the choice of independence in a referendum, and if the UK Government continues to deny a Section 30 order, my party will fight the UK general election on this single question: should Scotland be an independent country?
The illegal vanity project comes at the expense of average Scots who more than ever need a government that tackles real issues, with Police Scotland today announcing a 50-year high in sex crimes. But voters are starting to wake up and realise that not only does the First Minister not give a toss about them, her rotten SNP, mired in a nasty series of sleazy and bullying scandals, is crumbling from the inside. As former Scottish editor and current columnist for the Daily Telegraph, Alan Cochrane, writes, her once Democratic Party has become a one-woman show, with Sturgeon controlling everything yet squandering the power she's amassed. So, with opinion polls showing the Nationalist numbers dwindling, is the party over for scheming Sturgeon? That's our question tonight. Email me, dan@gbnews.uk. Tweet your thoughts to GB News. We've got our poll running there too. But weighing in on this now is the Dundee-born editor of the day, former Scottish editor of the Daily Telegraph himself, Alan Cochrane, and the former SNP Glasgow City Councillor, Austin Sheridan. So, Alan, I'm so grateful that you're here, because I read your column and I just thought it summed up the position of what's happened to Sturgeon so succinctly and brilliantly from a Scottish perspective. So can you just explain why you think she's got to this position?
Well, I think she almost explained it herself with her statement about how she's going to try and rebuild the bedrock of her party, who are completely fed up with her not producing what she's always promised them, an independent country. But, I mean, so what she's done with this astonishing, and I've taken my hat off to her, it was a surprise, she's actually going to take her plan to the Supreme Court, the most senior court in the land, and ask them, am I trying to do something illegal? Now, it's a bizarre thing for a politician to be doing. We expected, we poor hacks in the Scottish Parliament and watching the Scottish Parliament, thought she would ask her senior law officer, the Lord Advocate, to rule on that. But instead of that, she's taken her to the Supreme Court. I think, as do a lot of people, that she knows what the Lord Advocate would have said. Sorry, sunshine, you can't do it. So if she then gets a no from the Supreme Court, she's not finished. She's got another trick up her sleeve to help our activists, and that's what she says in a one-issue general election. Now, you're too young, and I'm certainly not too young to remember 1970 when Ted Heath tried a single-issue election, when he said during a fight with the miners, "Who runs Britain?" And the British people said, "Not you, sunshine." And she cannot decide to have an election on one issue. We decide, we the people decide what elections are about, not politicians.
Well, especially given all of the problems in Scotland. So Alan, you think fundamentally the party's over for the SNP?
I think the party's over, and the proof will be in the pudding when she fails in both of these attempts. She will get, I suspect, a no from the Supreme Court. And if she does try and have a one-issue election, we don't even know how she's going to judge it. Is it going to be on numbers of votes, numbers of street seats, or both, or a mix of all two? It's a complete mess. It's coming apart at the seams. So I think she's got a double whammy coming her way.
Austin Sheridan, why do you say the party isn't over for the SNP after that brilliant analysis from Alan Cochrane?
Alan set out the stall to precisely showing how Nicola Sturgeon will give the Scottish people an outlet and a say over Scotland's future. But the one thing I would clarify for Alan is it's been stated that over 50% of the votes casted in a general election would be what would be needed to get a majority, not the number of seats.
Yeah,
Are
but
you
you
sure
didn't.
about that, Austin? Because John Swinney, her deputy, has said it was both. And then he changed his mind.
John Swinney clarified that, but I would make the presumption in a first past the post system that if you get over 50% of the vote, we're going to have the most, if not all, of the seats anyway. But yeah, Nicola
But right
Sturgeon
now,
has said it would be 50%
Austin,
votes.
in Scotland, there is no SNP majority. You're being propped up by Green extremists.
There's a pro-independence majority in the Scottish Parliament, and there is a unionist minority. If the Unionists had a majority in the Scottish Parliament, then I would have to accept that as a Democrat and accept that a referendum isn't what the people of Scotland wanted. But the reality is, the people of Scotland have voted for a pro-independence Parliament. Nicola Sturgeon has set out stages where the people of Scotland can have their say in a legal manner, because no illegal option is going to be pursued. That's exactly why she's going to the
she knows
Court.
it's illegal. She knows it's illegal.
I'll be honest, and she exceeded my expectations on the path forward, and I thought it was a masterstroke.
Yeah, well, of course you did. Of course you did, because you want Sturgeon to be president. Alan, how do you respond?
That fresh face tells me he wasn't around at the last referendum. And if you were, how did you vote then? But the point about the last referendum, it was 8 years ago. Why should we have another one? Dan's just been discussing the Brexit referendum. Does anyone? Well, you might be right. Maybe the Remainers do want another referendum on Brexit, but I'm sure Dan doesn't want them to have it, nor do most people want them to have it. And I don't want to refight this 2014 independence referendum. I thought it was a very nasty, divisive affair. It caused a lot of scars, and we don't want to go through that again. And there's no need to go through it again.
No.
We had an 11%.
I mean, Austin, why do you want to put the country through this?
The reason that unionists, right, don't want to talk about, the key points of the benefits of the union is because they know that it's going to be very difficult.
Well, what are the benefits? What are the benefits? There's a £3.5 billion budget deficit for Scotland. You're not going to be able to join the EU. Spain will veto your membership. What's going to be your currency, Austin? Because now, Nicola Sturgeon is living in a delusional fantasy world that you're going to be able to keep the pound. Well, if you want EU membership, it's going to have to be the EU. Answer me those questions.
If the unionists believe the argument is so strong for the union, why are they shying away from allowing the people of Scotland to decide? And when it comes to a number
Austin, you've just asked a question. I will tell you why. Because when the last referendum took place, the SNP itself, your people, said this was a once-in-a-generation vote. You accepted that. Since when is a generation 9 years? Alan, you come in. Let Alan come in, and then I'll get you to respond.
Nicola Sturgeon said, not once she said once in a lifetime. Now, the last time I looked at Nicola Sturgeon, she looked hale and hearty. She said, once in a lifetime opportunity. They had it in 2014. Good night, Vienna.
Austin?
It's not up to one politician to decide the fate of a country moving forward, no matter what they say. The point that matters here is the people of Scotland voted for a second independence referendum. Now, what would happen in the scenario that England send a majority of Westminster MPs that supported independence? What permission would they need under the Good Friday Belfast Agreement? It's written into international law, an international agreement, that if there is a shift and change that's demonstrable, then they would be allowed to have a border poll, and it stipulates that they could only have one after 7 years has elapsed. Now, 8 years has elapsed for Scotland. It would be 9 years come October. There has been a clear demonstration in Scotland from the Scottish people who have elected their Scottish Parliament that they wanted a referendum. How can Westminster justify turning around and saying no?
Alan, isn't one of the issues, though, that at the last Scottish election, Alan, Sturgeon actually said this isn't a vote about independence. She encouraged unionists to vote for her.
I mean, she didn't want to talk about it. Everybody else wanted to talk about it, but she had to keep quiet about it. Come on, you must have heard. Well, give me an occasion when she mentioned a referendum during the last election.
Well, we do want to talk about it, and it was in our manifesto, and it was clear that if we got a parliamentary majority in favour of independence, and then we would go ahead and have it. If you look at the regional list vote, if you add up the pro-independence parties on the regional list votes across Scotland, over 50% of people who voted in favour.
OK, so Austin, I'm going to give you the final word, Austin, but what do you make of this new Scotsman poll that shows only 40% of Scots want a second referendum? It's game over, isn't it?
Well, the only poll that matters is elections, and people voted in an election to give politicians the mandate to hold a referendum.
Unless it's a once-in-a-lifetime vote in 2014, and then it doesn't matter at all. Thank you so much. That was Dundee-born former Scottish editor of the Daily Telegraph, Alan Cochrane. Really recommend you read his brilliant column. And former SNP, Glasgow City Councillor, Austin Sheridan. So who do you agree with on this? Is the party over for scheming Sturgeon's SNP?